Well, hello again.
Hello.
We're back for more interviews from life on the other side. Okay, so if
Yeah.
you've joined us before, you know that we interview those who crossed over and other entities on the other side of life. And we are going to interview a guide.
My guy.
Okay, her name is Arsa. And we're going to open with a prayer and get the interview going because she is all set. She's ready.
It's ready.
Okay. There is one presence and one power in the universe, and that power and presence is good, and that power and presence is God. We invite that presence into the sacred space and time. We ask that it transmute any energy, frequencies, or vibrations that are not in alignment with the light and love that it brings back to source. And we ask that all are open to receiving the messages, and those messages will come through with love and light. And we thank those who will come through. And we say, so it is.
And so it is.
Okay. All right. I have been waiting for this interview, and actually asked for it, so we're going to get started. Welcome, Arsa.
Thank you. Thank you.
Glad to have you as part of the team, and this will be a good way to introduce you and have others get to know a little bit about you, as well as, become familiar with ways that you can be of help and on this team.
Yes. Yes. I'm excited. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So we're going to get going with the questions. I had some questions about the new Earth that, was
Just
thinking.
jump right in.
Okay. The new
Well, it was about me.
Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Maybe we should talk a little bit about you first. Okay. I have a lot of questions. Maybe we should talk a little bit about you so everyone gets to know you first. Okay, so you've had a prior experience or incarnation here on Earth.
Yeah, I had an experience a couple of times of, oh my goodness, I lived, 1,000 years ago. That was what I would consider one of the more important lifetimes here, where I experienced a change in the earth then.
Okay.
So there was a big
Wow.
transition 1,000 years ago here, and I was one who was here to help kind of usher some of that in. A lot of the sickness and the, oh, goodness, I would almost say it was mental. People were in a mental state at that time and about to go into, well, they call it dark, but before you can get to the light, you have to go to the dark.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was a lot of that then. And, I was around for that, which is pretty, it was important for my own soul's growth.
Mm-hmm.
I lived in that lifetime here, and then I had to come back around the year 600. So 600 years ago.
Okay.
So
AD.
uh, so 600 years before now. So about
600 years. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I came back again during the middle of all that turmoil.
So what kind of turmoil was going on then?
Well, we had wars. So when I came before, it was before a lot of the war was happening.
Mm-hmm.
That was the Dark Ages, and around 1400 was when I came back again. And I wouldn't say I was of any importance in the world.
Mm-hmm.
I lived a simple life,
Yeah.
and I was in the Italy region now,
Mhm.
and we lived on the farm side. That was our family farmed, and we had cattle, and I was a simple girl, but I came here to experience a simple life, an everyday life,
Okay.
so that I could understand what that was for other people.
Okay.
I was what you would say I would consider quite average. My life was quite average. My parents were quite average. My brother and my sisters were quite average. But we had a big family. There were 7 of us. And my little brother was the last. I guess they finally got a son, and so that was enough. But we were happy though, and that was an important life to understand what it meant just to be normal, to be human, to live here
Mhm.
and experience some of the hardship of life, because it was really hard back then. And being hungry sometimes, and hurting sometimes, and being cold sometimes,
Mhm.
and really experiencing the reality of this earth plane.
Hmm.
A lot of people came here during that time to experience that. I wasn't the only one.
Wow.
There were many souls came to experience that. We,
Okay.
collectively created it, and that took time as a learning process for our soul's development. Some people got stuck there mentally,
Mhm.
um, and some didn't. Some were able to move out of that when they came back to evaluate what happened and what lessons we could learn. Some people got stuff out of it, and some people didn't.
Okay. So, what was your okay? Well, you said you came to just experience simple life.
Yes.
So, what did you take from that when you crossed back over?
So we had the opportunity as a family to know people who weren't as simple.
Okay.
We didn't know kings and queens,
Mm-hmm.
but we knew what we considered noble people through association. Who would my father and mother, um, they would hand make rugs,
Mm-hmm.
um, and people would buy them, and so we got to see what that was. Our family, we all did it
Okay.
eventually. We got to see what their lives were like, and see them sometimes in personal ways, where they would come and talk to us about what they wanted for their homes, and we realized that they weren't all that different.
Hmm.
That was what I learned, is that everyone comes here with different circumstances, and we decide that we're going to have these different lives, but we're not all that different. Sometimes we make a
Yeah.
whole lot out of what you have.
It's not about what you
It's
have.
not about what you have. It's a lot of times about what you do with what you have.
Yeah.
So don't squander, whether you have a little or a lot. You don't squander this gift of life.
Hmm.
But at the same time, you don't hold someone just because someone was born with a lot. You don't, hold them at higher esteem than someone who was born with a little. Because neither of those people made that situation. They came into it. You understand? They
Yeah.
didn't make that wealth or make that poverty for themselves. They came into it. And then what do you do with it once you're here?
Well, but it sounds like you choose
You
that.
choose to come into it, but then what do you do with it? So I can choose to come into any situation, but what do I make out of that situation? That's the measure of a person, not what they came in with. It's what do you do with it?
Hmm. So we all, whatever life we've come into, is it a choice on our part
We choose it.
always? What about
You
what
you
about
choose it. Let me answer your question before you
okay.
go on. You choose it based on some parameters.
Okay.
So say you go into the planning phase and you say, okay, these are the 5 lessons I have to learn. or I should say have. Say there's 5 lessons you have to learn. And you say, I'm going to tackle lesson 1 and 3 in this lifetime. All right, you pull those out and you say, okay, in order to tackle 1 and 3, these situations can help you get there.
Okay.
All right, so then me and my team have to sit down and say, okay, I think I'm going to choose this situation. I mean, I have other choices.
Okay.
But I have some say in that and say, okay, I think I'm going to choose this one. In order to get 1 and 3, it may be a little harder, but I might get a little bit of 4 too. So I'll try it. And you might also say those are the lessons you want, but at the same time, there's some character development things you have to do, soul progression, the soul teams that you're working with.
Oh my!
So you have all these factors, which kind of, I don't want to say it limits the choices, but you've got to work within those parameters. If I say I'm going to reincarnate with 3 of my siblings from 600 years ago, then they've got their plans, I've got my plan, and then we have to figure out how all of that works together. They've got the lessons they have to learn, I've got the lessons I've got to learn, and before you know it, you've got this huge grid that you're planning around. That's why it takes some time.
Wow.
So if somebody comes back too quick, they probably didn't do a lot of planning. It takes some time. So, I had to do a lot of planning. Even to come back, during that 1400s, it took some time. And we had to plan things together and work things through.
Wow. Wow. Okay, so I'd like to go back to the first life. The one that you said you lived 1,000 years ago. What was that life about? What were you here to learn as well as to influence?
So 1,000 years ago, those were interesting times because if you notice, there wasn't a lot of stuff going on of a really big note.
Okay.
But there was an undercurrent happening. There was a shift that was beginning. So you had the Christians who were full steam ahead.
Okay.
They were on the precipice of conquering.
Oh.
So that was spreading out across the world, and we knew from the other side that there would be a push in of new religions, but at the time it was Christianity or bust. And one of the things that we were trying to do, those of us who came in like myself, we were trying to influence people of the possibility that there may be other things.
Oh.
So, I didn't survive very long.
Why?
When you were like I was in that era, you were considered a heretic. I was considered evil. Things I believed, the things I didn't even have to talk about it. People, just because I didn't talk about what everyone else was talking about, the default was that I must not believe and I must be evil. I must be a heretic, and I wasn't following the dictates of the church. Yeah. That was a really hard. That was a hard life. Being different, and my family didn't. My family was honorable, I should say. They weren't, wealthy, but they were a well-respected family. My father was a clerk. He worked with money, and they were well respected, and I disgraced the family by not following what was supposed to be done. And even now, I'm saddened by that. Not in a, I know I've moved on, but that I wasn't the only one. You know, there were so many of us when I look back that were crucified for thinking and believing differently. And it's one reason that I've chosen to work on this side, to be strong for other people, to I can encourage and I can be strong for other people here, knowing what I know from my life experiences there, to help people stay strong and stay committed and stay on this path, which isn't always easy.
True.
I was quite young when they decided that I was a problem. I was only 23.
Wow.
But you know, 23 back then was
Yeah.
older than 23 is now.
True. True.
But I was still young,
Mhm.
and I didn't follow the rules. I didn't, and I still don't follow the rules very well. That's probably why I chose your daughter. But
yeah, she doesn't either.
but it was an important incarnation because I got to see the reality of being persecuted for being different and being judged harshly for being different, and to lose your life and to pay that ultimate price for being different. And so when I came back, 400 years later, I was quite normal.
Yeah, I can understand why you would want a normal.
I was quite normal because I needed to see.
Yeah.
What would it be like to just be normal? And so I did. That doesn't mean I wasn't aware. Doesn't mean I wasn't conscious.
Okay.
I was just normal. And you have a lot of people living like that right now.
This is true. They're not a part of anything. They just live quiet lives.
Yeah. And it may be because they've got, some experiences that made it really difficult to not be normal.
Wow.
And so they want to experience, what is it like just to be normal, to not be judged harshly and be different and stand out, and that's a choice that they made at some point in their planning to live a normal average life.
Wow. Wow. That's quite an interesting incarnation. So now you're back and you're going to be working with us. So you bring a perspective that I don't know if I don't have a recall, so I don't know if I've had that kind of experience that you had in that first incarnation 1,000 years ago. But interesting now because a lot of people are waking up and living a different kind of life from the traditional Christianity life. And
you did.
I did have that experience.
Not that same exact experience, but you had an experience where you were a medicine woman, so that was frowned upon at the time.
Quite sure it was.
And you lived off to yourself, so to speak, so that you could do your work and people would come to you, and then they would sneak back home. But that's many people who are doing this kind of thing now have done something along the lines before, and they're bold and brave enough to come back now and try it again.
Yeah, I guess and I guess we kind of gravitate toward each other.
There is that,
Yeah.
and we need it right now. I mean, there's souls here right now that have agreed to come back in this day and age, knowing it's tough, but knowing it's necessary because the earth requires it. She literally requires it.
So this is an assumption, but I'm going to ask you and you can clarify. Because we are about to go through this change, the new earth change, is that why we are here and waking up at this time?
Oh yes, and this this planet requires it. Her vibration is shifting, and it's either go along with her or go. I mean, I hate to say it like that, but I know Seth speaks a little bit different about it, but it's go along with her or go.
Or when you say go along with her or go, what do you mean?
I mean,
Go.
You won't be here anymore. You won't be on this planet. If you can't go along with her, if you can't change yourself and raise your vibration, eventually she will purge this earth of those who can't go along with her. She's a conscious being. She's allowing us, almost like parasites sometimes, to be on her.
Wow.
So if you aren't being helpful and you're contributing to her and instead you're hurting her, she is not going to allow it much longer.
Wow.
I mean, it's like, how much can she take?
Well, this is true.
No mother being abused is going to continue being abused by her kids. For eternity? I mean, so, we go along with her and we change and we rise up and we take responsibility and we treat her with respect and love, or go.
Wow. Okay. Well, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you. Well, I think this is going to conclude the interview for now. However,
you had a question about New Earth, and I want you to ask it.
I do have. Yeah. I did, and it's about lost souls on the New Earth. And I was going to save it and do another interview because I have many more questions to ask you.
Well, we can certainly wrap this up. We can come back to that one in the second interview. Follow up.
Oh yeah. This will require a second interview because I don't think I got to any of the questions that I had written down, and I've been wanting to talk.
Questions. So thank you for letting me speak.
Yes. So
I love this planet. I do. I love this planet. It's so dynamic. And it's unlike any other place I have been, because you have every mindset and you have people who are all different, and you have people who've come here from all different kind of planets. So you've got this microcosm of the universe in this one place, which makes it kind of hard sometimes, but it also makes it so unique and beautiful.
Oh. And of course, you saying that generates more questions.
I'm sure it does. It does. But it's a magical place. This planet is.
Oh,
so we cannot take it for granted. We cannot take it for granted.
So there will be a part 2. So you have to come back for part 2 because we're going to continue this conversation. We thank you for joining us. We thank you, Arsa, for being a part of us and joining us. I'm so excited.
I'm going to stay right here because what we need to do is just, stop this one and just keep going. So I'm just going to stay here.
Okay. All right. Okay. So we will be back. Stay tuned. Come back for part 2, and thank you for joining us. And we're going to say bless you until then. Okay. Bye-bye now.